I am now joined by Senator Roz Dance, co-chair of the Virginia Consumer Healthcare Alliance. Roz, thank you so much for joining this morning.
Good morning, Mike, and thanks for having me on this snowy Friday morning.
Of course. So you have been very busy this past month. You recently had a teletown hall that discussed fixing surprise medical bills. There's legislation pending in the General Assembly. So there's a lot going on in the surprise billing space. And I was wondering if you could just handicap it for us. What's a legislative update? Can you tell me about the teletown hall you just held? Tell me everything.
Oh, great. I'm glad you asked because you just said as our Consumer Healthcare Alliance, we've been pretty active in informing Virginians about our surprise medical bills and amplifying people's voices so they can express their thoughts and feelings to elected officials and explain their views on solving these issues in a way that protect Virginia patients, families, and employers. For an example, earlier this week, as you mentioned, Chris and I had an opportunity to participate in a live telephone town hall which focused on fixing surprise medical bills. Thousands of people, surprisingly, across the Commonwealth joined the call. It was quite a great conversation we had.
Mm-hmm.
We took calls and questions from people. Delegate Chris Peace and I were able to provide people with an update on what's happening with legislation in the General Assembly, and an emergency room doctor, Dr. Tricia Ness, also joined us to explain what happens to patients when big insurance companies don't pay their share of medical bills. It was very enlightening, and because of that call, many Virginians have been able to contact their local legislators to express their opinions about stopping surprise medical bills.
And how can they stop that? What is the best bill, the leading contender right now? I believe it's Senate Bill 172?
You're correct, Mike. You're right on it. There's still a few bills alive in the General Assembly to protect patients from surprise medical bills, but the leading contender is indeed Senate Bill 172. This legislation will prohibit surprise medical bills from emergency care, and that is a major issue for us because if it's something that you can plan ahead of time, you can do a better job of at least knowing the cost, but not in emergency situations. And this would, Bill 172 would require insurance companies and healthcare providers to settle disputes, payment disputes among themselves so that their patient isn't involved. They just continue to pay their premiums and deductibles and let the other guys take care of the rest of that.
Well, Senate Bill 172, I know it's bipartisan in nature. It's supported by patients, it's supported by consumers, it's supported by doctors and hospitals. So who's opposing it?
Good question. Unfortunately, big insurance companies are trying to stop it from becoming law. They were successful last year, but we are very cautiously optimistic that not this year, that with the support of the advocates and those of us who have experienced firsthand the impact of those surprise medical bills, we will be talking with our legislators, our local legislators, and ensuring them that we do support Senator Bill 172. And I see that they're making a difference. I see that we can make a difference this year.
Well, you served as chairman of the Joint Commission on Health Care. You worked as a nurse. Can you explain to everybody why they should engage on this issue? I mean, why is this so critically important?
It's critically important because this is one of those situations when you say a surprise medical bill, people might say, what are you talking about? Because if they're not directly impacted by this, they don't understand the significance of it until they themselves or somebody in their family goes to the emergency room or they're traveling somewhere and they stop, and now later on they'll find out that they were out of they were like, so you got in-net where your payments are secure, out-of-net says that your insurance company is not going to cover that, and now you have a surprise bill. Instead of your deduction, your normal deduction of $50, maybe $250, now you have a bill of $3,000, $30,000 that seriously that you have that is not being covered by your insurance.
And it can just crush a family. I mean, the stories are so sad. Surprise medical bills are so, well, they're really, I'm going to use the word disgusting because it's so harmful, and it can be prevented. There should be stronger legal protections for patients. Patients should be protected from big insurance companies, which is what the Virginia Consumer Healthcare Alliance is advocating for, and what you've been advocating for your entire career.
Yes, and the time is now, and I feel very comfortable and confident that the legislators and the voices that they're hearing from us, the advocates, is going to make a difference this year.
So how can people get further involved? I mean, you just had a teletown hall. You have an amazing ad out there that kind of takes a buzzsaw anthem. Tell me and tell the listeners, how can they get involved in this? What can they do? Who can they call? I mean, I think everyone wants to stand up to big insurance. I don't know of any person that loves big insurance.
I will tell you that as a legislator, I always said that the people that I represented were my bosses, and I listened to them. And I will tell you that the legislators that are there, each of them are there for the people. And if they hear from the people that put them in office, that is their local legislators, if they hear from their constituents, they will respond, and they will respond appropriately. So all they have to do is reach out to them and let them know that this is a concern for them, and the time is now. They can actually go to virginiaconsumerhealthcare.org, and they can /John if they'd like to become active advocate. But just virginiaconsumerhealthcare.org will get them the information that they need, or how they might reach their local legislator to make sure that their voice is heard.
Well, we've all heard horror stories about surprise medical bills. Someone, Billy trips on his skateboard and breaks his knee, and mom and dad get shouldered with a $50,000 bill. It's sad, and it's a process and a problem that needs to be stopped. You are on the front line, along with former Delegate Chris Peace, on stopping this problem. I encourage everybody to go to virginiaconsumerhealthcare.org/join. Protect against, big insurance who's trying to take a buzzsaw to your bank account. Senator Dance, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much, Mike, for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. This is Mike Rubino, guest hosting the John Fredericks Radio Show.